All right. Hi there. I am Benny,
And I'm Valerie.
and welcome to the Brother Sister podcast, where one of us introduces a topic that will inspire, encourage,
Motivate
motivate you. So
so you can live your best life.
so you can live your best life. And so that's our goal, that you're going to have something to take away and also hopefully be entertained and enjoy yourself
Yeah.
somewhat. One of us introduces the subject. The other person does not know the subject.
Yeah, we kind of flip-flop every week.
Every week, the goal is to flip-flop. And as time goes on, and perhaps you out there give us some good ideas, maybe we'll even make some adjustments. But at this point, that's what we're thinking, is that one of us is going to come in with a topic that inspires us or challenged us. Last week, we discussed...
You weren't here last week. You were out of town.
Oh, I was out of town last week. But our last podcast, we... what in the world did we discuss?
Oh my
It was
goodness.
important.
Well,
It changed everything about life. Well, I know the first one we talked about, was it fears and, overcoming, going for something, risking things.
Yeah.
And the second one, Iggy, do you remember what the second one was?
Speaking of Iggy,
Oh, yes.
he doesn't remember what he ate yesterday.
Speaking of
We're gonna go
Iggy, Iggy is our sound guy. So he's handling all the sound issues. And we're very grateful for him and the time he spends to make sure that it sounds
Yes, he's
best, especially under the conditions that we have. One day we'll have a lot more equipment and a lot.
But I'm
perhaps
thankful that
stronger
he
equipment.
has any of this, because when you said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" I thought we were going to sit with our phones.
Phones. Exactly. Yes. This is really nice.
Yeah.
So tell us about your eye, because that's really important.
Yeah. If you can see my eye, hopefully the camera isn't that good. So this Saturday, I was working out, and I did not know that I did this, but I must have been lifting really heavy. I'm just kidding. I wasn't lifting heavy, but I must have done something that popped a blood vessel. So if I can get into what happened, and then it kind of like segues into what we're talking about, unless you want to say about something about your weekend. But this weekend was my 40th reunion, my 40th class reunion. So
High school reunion.
high
to
school
be clear.
reunion. Yeah. So I went to
So
work
wait,
out.
how old does that make you?
Oh, yeah. Do the math.
Never mind.
So I do the workout, had a great workout, came home, had to do some things because I was on the committee for the reunion, got a few things done. Then we kind of relaxed a little bit. I got to hit the shower because we got to get there early, decorate, all that kind of stuff. Got out of the shower, went to put my makeup on, and I see my eye. It
So you
wasn't
went to
this
the
bad.
reunion like this
I went
too?
to the reunion.
Oh, that's like one of the favorite things to have happen. Oh, it's like having the big zit on your nose or in the prom.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so I was standing there staring at myself in the mirror going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Could you give me a towel? I just spilled on myself like a little child. I don't even know how I did that.
You missed your mouth.
Well, no. Oh,
Oh
man.
my God, too bad you didn't do that at the reunion.
Well, at least I didn't go there with a bloodshot eye. Thank you, boogers. Okay.
Oh my God. So here I am, and I'm getting ready, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, I cannot believe I'm going to see people that I haven't seen in years and have this red eye. And I was just like kind of beside myself, if you will. It sounds so vain, but I'm just like, of all days, right?
Yeah. No, but it is sad. I mean, not that. I mean, I guess it could be considered vain, but the truth is, we wanna. It's not even showing who you really are, because that isn't who you normally are. So it's not even just about the fact that it's not very attractive, but it's also the fact that it's not you. It's like they don't even get to see
Right.
you.
Well, and it wasn't this bad because it just started to go over.
Okay.
It's since then has just, pretty much surrounded the eye except for my very left side of it. But I've worn sunglasses in the classroom because I don't want to freak the kids out. So
The classroom, like, why are you wearing sunglasses in a classroom, and why are you in a classroom?
well, because I am a paraeducator. I work with kids that need extra help, special needs, learning center kiddos. And so yeah, so I work at an elementary school. In fact, the elementary school we went to, I work at
I
Lincoln
know that's a
Elementary.
trip.
I know. So so yeah, so while I'm working with the kiddos, especially some of them that do have, like if they're have autism or whatever, you don't want to freak them out because they would just be like, so
Sure.
yeah, I'm just wearing the sunglasses all day. And then with the classroom, the fifth graders are like, why are you trying to be cool? Why are you trying to wear?
Well, I remember our
But
sister used to tell me if anybody wears sunglasses indoors, it automatically means they're on drugs.
oh,
And so, so I remember every time I saw somebody that was wearing sunglasses, I would be like, "Oh,
they
they're
must be on drugs.
They must be on drugs."
Yeah.
So, because she worked in all those
Oh, right.
homes, so
Well, then, yeah. But no, and I don't typically ever wear sunglasses inside, but I wear them all the time outside. So
well, let me tell you a little about, unless you have more to say about that, but I know it's going to go into your subject.
Yeah,
but,
we'll go
but I
back.
was going to tell
But-
you about my weekend. So as you know, but maybe the listener doesn't, I'm getting my marriage and family therapy degree. And so, so this has been a pursuit of mine for the last year. And it's all online. And because it's all online, due to the nature of the degree, I can't do it all online. You have to do some things in person. And so there's a couple of what they call residencies. And so one of them was this past weekend, which is why we did not record a podcast over the weekend. But it was really a very affirming experience, challenging, putting ourselves. There's 15 of us in the class. There's hundreds of us at this residency, but in this particular class, there's 15 of us, and what we had to do is act out.
So are you looking over there because you don't want to look at my red eye?
I know. You know what? I think it's because I'm trying to remember the week. I'm trying to remember the weekend.
I'm like, he's looking past me.
No. So I still am doing it. I
Yeah,
can't not
it's
do
okay.
it.
I get when you're trying to, like,
when I'm
remember
trying to
something,
focus.
yeah.
I'm trying to think about it. And so what's interesting is that it was very. It was affirming in a lot of ways because the professor and other students would say, "Hey, man, you seem to be a natural in some of these things." But one of the things, for instance, that I remember distinctly that we did was we had to talk about a triggering person, a person that we know would probably trigger us in a negative way. We had to communicate that to a couple other people, and then those people pretended like they were in therapy and that like they were that person. And none of us are actors, obviously. So it's kind of like in
like
my head, I thought
psychodrama. You had to
Yeah,
just,
and
like,
I kind of thought, is this really going to work? I really wondered if this was going to work, and it was fascinating because one of the things that triggers me is somebody who's dominant with somebody who's really dominant, a dominant personality, particularly dominating over women. That really is difficult for me. So we had this fake couple that was there, and the woman was the domineering one over the guy, and even she was wondering if I was being triggered. She told me later on, but what happened was at one point she interrupted the person. And now, granted, in your mind and my mind, I'm wanting to be triggered because the whole idea is
to be triggered.
yeah,
and how
and
we're
we're trying to how do we handle it and
yes.
what happens, and try to recognize what's going on with your body so that you can identify, oh, it's happening. This is what I maybe need to do or not do or whatever. And it was really interesting because when this person interrupted, I just I blanked out. Totally blanked out. I'm not joking. I looked at the other person who was talking, and I saw the lips moving, and then it went back to the person who interrupted, and then I just had to stop the scene, for lack of a better word, and just say, okay. I said, I have no idea what he just said.
Oh wow!
I have
So you
no-
got stage fright.
I don't know if it's stage fright or whatever, but I got triggered, and it was a weird feeling. Now, granted, like I said, you're purposely trying to get in that state, etc. But it was pretty interesting for me, and yeah. So we had several of those kind of experiences
Well, that's good.
where you're just being pushed and challenged, and so I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad I'm doing it. But yeah, it was an interesting.
That sounds
little
very
thing.
interesting. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was a little bit about my weekend. It was a busy weekend, man. We got there. I traveled on Thursday, 2 hours after, or 3 hours after getting there, or something like that. I'm in class for several hours. Next day, I'm in class from, well, besides eating, 7 to 6, and did that for 3 days. And
Wow.
then on Monday, had a half a day, and then literally finished and got in the
Came home.
car and went to the airport. So yeah,
That is a busy weekend.
it was a busy weekend. Good, but busy.
So I had my reunion Saturday night, and so I was busy. And then Sunday, I just laid around all day. So that was my weekend.
That was your weekend with,
But
with your eyeball bleeding.
being on the committee, it's been crazy up until so once the reunion was over, like everything just like just deep breath, and I just had to like decompress, and I did have to go grocery shopping and stuff like that on Sunday, but so getting back to my eye and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see all these people I haven't seen in a long time. And I am usually very much like put things in perspective, that kind of person. But at that moment, I was not. I was like, I cannot believe I'm going to see people I haven't seen in years with this bloodshot eye. And it was, to be honest with you, the way it first started, it looked like it was a blood clot. So it wasn't just like, oh, your eye's red, do you have pink eye? No, it was like a blood clot right there. So, but Peter's the one that like turned it around for me because I'm like, can you believe this? Because he came in to take his shower. I'm like, look at my eye. He's like, oh, wow, what a bummer. And he goes in to go to, and I'm like, no, but look at my eye. And he's like, Valerie, your eye's a little red. Think about somebody like Rex, who's going to be there tonight. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I almost got teary eyed, and I went, okay, now let me tell you about this guy. But he was right. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go with a red eye. Who cares? So little backstory about this guy that I went to school with. I don't know if you remember Rex Wong. He goes by Rex Markle right now, but you probably wouldn't because you didn't come in to high school
Yeah,
and so forth.
I don't remember them.
So wonderful guy. He even won like in senior best, like the most unpredictable guy. Fast forward many years, he got he's a neurosurgeon. Then when he went in to do surgeries and the spine and everything, he realized a lot of it was due to tumors for cancer. So he went on to be an oncologist.
Oh,
He didn't
geez.
practice cancer. He practiced still neurosurgery in the spine, but he wanted to really know about those cancer cells in there. So that's how this guy is. Okay. So now
That's just amazing. He wasn't smart enough as a
amazing,
neurosurgeon. It's like,
amazing. So we're all like, oh my gosh, Rex, 2019, he's a very active guy. He's mountain biking with his friends, and his friends all take off to the right. But Rex, in his words, you know me, I'm unpredictable. I decide to go left. And he hit some crack or something, flew off his bike. The helmet cracked. He's paralyzed he's a quadriplegic. And so
Wow.
that being said, I'll get into what he's doing right now real quick. But that being said, Peter reminded me he's coming, in his wheelchair with his two assistants. And I'm worried about a red eye, And
Yeah.
so, but this guy's just so inspiring. I had a chat with him that night, and I was just like, what are you doing now? And he's just like, well, I always wanted to continue to help people. And now I can really help people because I can relate to those as he's sitting there, and now I can relate to these people that I would perform surgeries on because now I know exactly how they feel. I know what they're going through. I know their thoughts. I know. And so I was just looking at him like, oh my God, you're amazing. So he assists other surgeons, looks over the scans and all that kind of stuff and gives prognosis and all his stuff. And he also teaches. So he's also, teaching that. And so anyway, just so inspiring. So it just really put myself in my place. Like, okay, I have a bloodshot eye, it's not that big of a deal,
Yeah. There is an interesting thing about when people are suffering. I think it's important that we're honest with ourselves and how we actually feel and identify that, but always in perspective, right?
Right.
So, because there's nothing wrong with you, at least this is my thought. I have no idea what your topic is and if we're going that direction, but I think there's nothing wrong with an individual saying, I'm irritated
For
about
sure.
my eye. This is a
Yes.
bummer for me and I don't like it.
Yes.
But then if it takes you to this place that's super deep
Dark
and
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 yes.
dark, then it's like, well, now you're getting out of perspective.
Well, and it's funny you said that because I shared it on my stories about my eye and how it happened on the night of my reunion. And I thought to myself, and I even said, this isn't to minimize the fact that somebody might be going through something that maybe is a little trivial to what somebody else is, and that you can still be bothered by it. You can still be upset by it. But the thing is like, I was almost going to make it ruin my night. Like I was almost going to be like, oh my gosh, should I wear a patch? Like,
Right.
but I
And
was
that's
like,
when you know there's something wrong.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, wait. This isn't that big of a deal. And you can explain to people, I broke a blood vessel. It's not that big of a deal. But what this kind of ties into is there was somebody recently, about 2 months ago, that had a broken blood vessel in their eye. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to your eye? And she's like, oh, I don't know how it happened, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, oh, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But there I am saying, oh my gosh. And so this is my topic is, do you talk to yourself in the same way that you would talk to somebody else if they had like the same problem that you're experiencing? Like, for example, like self-talk. Okay, so let's say Patty comes up to me and says, oh, I don't like the way this skirt fits. It makes my legs look this way or that way, and I'm like, it looks great. What are you talking about? You look awesome. And then I look in the mirror and see my skirt and go, oh God, what's wrong with my legs? And then I have learned over the years to switch it around and say, would I say this to a friend? Would I say this to a family member?
Right.
And so my segue, I guess, is talking about self-talk and the positive talk versus negative.
Yeah. Well, it seemed so. To answer your question, I mean, I would say yes and no, right? So there are definitely times when I would say the same thing. I've learned to say things to me. I have learned, that what I say affects, I have learned that what I say to myself affects my actions. I very much learned that if I'm speaking to myself in a negative way, I become negative. And so I recognize, so I'm not sure that I would put it in the context that I would never say this to another person, because quite frankly, I'm painfully honest to people, to my kids, to Patty. I mean, I will say if I don't like the dress. I won't say, oh, that looks, completely.
Well, I guess
horrible.
that's true, because you did, when I sat down here before we started the podcast, say your eye does look really gross and weird. And what did you say?
I did not say that.
You didn't say, but you did say it is a little scary. Or
No,
something.
I did say it was a little scary. I did say it was a little scary. I go, oh, it is a little scary. Well, and then when you walked up, I go, oh my goodness, what happened to your eye?
Yeah.
So it was, yeah. I mean, I definitely noticed it, and I'm one that's going to be honest. I think there's a way to be honest without being rude, or because, like, if I say to Patty that I don't particularly care for that dress, I don't say, oh, you look horrible, you look ugly, oh, that's bad. I'll just say, oh, I'm not sure I like, that dress, maybe
Right.
or whatever.
Well, I think there's a difference in that. I think Patty sent me a picture one time. She said, should I wear this? And I go, no, I wouldn't wear that. And then she changed it out and put, so yeah, there's something about being honest, but I'm talking about when you do have negative self-talk. Like, let's say you do look at yourself and say, oh, I wish I didn't have the love handles, or I wish I didn't have, like, to talk more positively about yourself. Like, I've come across many people, and I don't know why, if it's because of, I don't know why people like vent to me about things. But the thing is like, when I hear them talking about themselves negatively, I am quick to say, stop, let's flip it around. Would you talk like that to your friend? Would you tell your friend that, and
Yeah.
so I'm thinking of somebody in particular who would constantly down talk herself,
Negatively about
very
herself.
negatively about herself. And I said, okay, if your friend walked up to you and said these negative things about herself, what would you say? And she says, well, no, I would tell her to stop. I would tell her, that, not to be so hard on herself and this and that. Can you please say that to yourself?
Yeah.
Can you please do that?
Well, there's no question. Yeah, because like what you're saying, like what we were talking about earlier, like in the case of a dress, Yeah, there's a way to tactfully say what you think, right? You know, it's a classic thing. Or somebody comes in with a brand new haircut and you're like, ooh, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
and you're not sure, is this, you know,
Yeah.
what do you
Ooh, you have
say?
hair.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What's for dinner? But the point is that, those things are very different. I think negative self-talk, I think, I think where you're going is that people will, it's what I said earlier. I really believe that when people talk to themselves, whatever you say to yourself is going to lead to your actions.
Yes.
So if you keep talking to yourself about, how you cannot do something,
Mm-hmm.
or how, you'll never, especially words like you'll never be able to do
Mm-hmm.
this, or I am not that way, or
Those absolutes. Yes.
those kind
Yes.
of comments ultimately lead to actions where you believe it.
Yes.
I do believe that we have to talk to ourselves just like we talk to other people in a way that says, because we need our body to believe in
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Yes.
And if we're constantly telling it you suck.
Well, that's why I wrote this thing down. I said, we are what we eat. And we all have heard that, how many, you are what you eat. But the same goes for our mind. You are what you think.
That's right.
So if it's a constant negative feeling, there's no way you're going to hit goals or you're going to,
Yeah, I actually like the phrase when you're talking to somebody about something, and they say, for instance, they're practicing or learning the guitar, and they say, "Oh, I can't play the guitar,"
mm-hmm.
and then I like to say, "Yet."
Yes.
Just throw that
Oh,
little
that's our
word at
big
the end.
slogan at school right now.
Yeah,
To put the word yet at the end of it.
yeah. If
Uh-huh.
you throw that at the end, it's like, yeah, it's true. You can't do it right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean. But if you say, "I can't play the guitar," and end it there, then you can't play the guitar, and
Mm-hmm.
you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never be able
Right.
to play it. You'll never. It's very difficult to get over that.
Right.
Likewise, I mean, the things that go in my mind are, I mean, there's several basic things, and I'm wondering if you have some things that people say to themselves specifically that you wish they wouldn't say. Do you have things like that? Because the things that I think of have to do with health and eating
Mm-hmm.
right and going to work out or going to the gym, whatever. I also think of, goals that someone might have in regards to getting, I'm 50 something,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm getting a master's degree,
Mm-hmm.
and so and I
But if you told yourself, I can never do that, you
yeah,
would.
if I said I can never do that. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way that I could do that. Then you don't do it.
But see, if you had said to yourself, I can't do it, and then somebody else walks up to you and says, thinking about getting a master's degree, wouldn't you
Right.
go for it?
Exactly.
Try it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think I've probably learned, to be pretty good about that, and speaking to myself in a positive way, even in regards to goals and directions. But I definitely know what you're talking about, and I even hear, clients in
Mm-hmm.
coaching who definitely need help in how they affirm themselves and how
Mm-hmm.
they say things. And I'll have people that, they'll start off their day with, it's not a good day. And I go, well,
Mm.
and this is where my little catchphrase is. I always say, well, make it a great day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? You've just decided this is going to be a
Right.
bad day.
You
It's
can
eight. It's
decide
8 in the morning. It's like,
exactly.
change the tune. It doesn't have
Exactly.
to be. What are the things that you can say or do to make it so that now this is actually going to be a
Mm-hmm.
good day? You might not achieve what you originally hoped. Maybe because it's a bad day because you were thinking I was going to do X, Y, and Z in my job, and my boss said no, you have to do this other thing. But that doesn't necessarily mean it
Make
has
it
to be
the
a
whole
bad
day
day.
is a bad day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you have things like what are the things that you're thinking that some people say to themselves?
Well, I think that for a lot of it, for me, is going back to food. There is many people that said, I can never eat the way you do. I could never change my diet like that. And then I'm talking about even friends or even people that reached out through Instagram when they would hear me talking positively. They say, you're so positive. How do you remain positive? I just don't, I can't be positive. I'm not, that's not innate, and I'm like, but it is like, you have to talk yourself through some of these things. This wasn't me many years ago. Like even, and this is a perfect example, many, many, many years ago, we were camping, so that's how long ago it was, because I haven't been camping since God knows when. But I had a bathing suit on. Another friend had a bathing suit on. She had stretch marks. I had stretch marks. She says to me, I don't know. I think I need to wear a wrap. I don't want anybody to see my stretch marks. I go, you can barely tell. You can barely even see your stretch marks. So then I have mine. I'm like, wait, where's my wrap?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, she's like, but you can barely see yours. I'm like, no, you can really see mine. You
Yeah.
can barely see yours.
That's right.
So my whole thing is like, it could be food related. It could be, like you said, in the gym. It could be, but when you're telling yourself that yours, I guess it just really comes down to the fact is I learned to talk to myself the way I would talk to a friend.
Yeah.
Because you're kind to your friend. Yeah, you might be honest about things, but you're kind to your friend. You're gentle. You have compassion, you know?
Right.
Whereas for me, I'm a little more down on myself. I'm a little more like judgmental, and I don't feel that way about certain people, especially with my kids. You know, I'm constantly encouraging them, and if there's ever a negative thing, I want to stop it right away, you know, and say, whoa, 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 what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Switch it, you know. And that's one thing I would always try to say is like, when I did hear negative stuff come out of anyone, whether it be my kids or friends or whatever, like flip it around. And if you can't get that negative thought out of your head, if you can't flip it to a positive, at least try to get the negative out. At least tell yourself, okay, stop thinking about that. Let's think about something else and move on. But I usually try to tell people that I have chatted with to think of something positive. You know, if you can't necessarily feel good about the one particular thing that you're not feeling great about, tell yourself something positive.
Well, and that, so one of the things that there's all kinds of different therapy, right? So one of them is narrative therapy, and one of it's kind of what you're talking about, which is the idea of changing the script. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, they're in a depressive mindset or whatever it is. There's something that's going on that's generating this negative. I'm going to call it depression or whatever. And what a therapist might try to do is help them change the narrative. Now, there's a lot of things that go on, right? It's not always as simple as just, hey, just flip the switch and everything's all good. But the idea of what you're saying is true, is that we want to change the narrative to go, okay. And even in the case of, for instance, a bad, quote unquote, bad child, and so the bad child is doing, you know, something, instead of calling that kid the bad child, you can say, well, isn't it interesting how he is trying to get attention, how much how important it is that he be in relationship with you. So rather than seeing that negative behavior as, golly, I wish he could just change, you see it as, oh, this is a cry for him because he loves us. He wants to be in relationship with us.
Well, even back in like even, I don't know if you guys did this, but I just remember reading, I think it was Dr. Dobson, or I used to read a lot of books. Don't yell at your kid. Don't run to your kid. Tell them to walk.
Oh, right.
So
the positive talk, even, no, I totally agree with that too, because I think that's another issue is if you say to yourself, I don't want to, I mean, because that's easier to do. Don't walk. Okay.
Sure.
Don't run, just walk.
Yeah.
But if you think about other things, it's like, okay, don't eat that.
Yes.
Don't eat that.
Yes.
Don't eat that. Well, as long as you keep saying, your mind doesn't catch the don't.
Yeah.
All it does is focus on the food. And so what we want to do is change to say, eat this, eat this, eat this, and, you know, choose these other, you know, fruit, vegetables, whatever it is, right? So the idea is, okay, I want to change the way I'm thinking so that it makes so that ultimately I think my mind starts to get wins. This is another thing that I don't know where I got this. I must have read it somewhere, but your mind has to experience wins. Like it has to, when we start to experience a win, and when we and our mind starts to recognize that we can be trusted. Because see, if we make some kind of declaration, I am going to get up early.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to do something like that because we've been talking a lot about food. So I am going to get up early. I'm going to get up at 6:30 in the morning. For some people, that's early, right? So I'm going to get up at 6:30 in the morning. And then we hit snooze, and then we hit snooze, and we hit snooze, and we hit snooze, and then we start telling ourselves, you know, I can't get up at 6:30. I
Yeah.
just can't do it. And so then we start, our mind
Believing
and
you
our
can't
body
get up.
starts going, I can't do
can't
it.
get
So
up.
later, when I say I'm going to start eating more fruit,
Mm-hmm.
and then we don't eat fruit, then our mind, our body starts to say, well, he can't be trusted. He's not going to do what he says.
Yeah.
And so it's super important that we set goals where our body can win. And this is why whenever somebody tells me they're going to go to the gym, or especially if they have a goal of losing weight, and then the first thing they say is, so I'm going to start going to the gym, and I'm like, don't go to the gym, because that's not going to help you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really need to change the way you eat.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the gym, you're just going to be sore. But if you keep eating poorly, then you're going to be in trouble. And why I'm just bringing this up, though, is that it's like, whatever the goal might be, you need to start with little tiny things,
sure.
so that you can ultimately tell your body, I can do this.
Yes.
So
You want to win. You have to, you want to set yourself up for success. So if you're setting, you know, it's like the whole New Year's Eve, or I'm sorry, the
New
New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, I joined a gym and I'm going to go every single day. Like, oh, you're going to go every single day? Well, you haven't been to the gym in 7 years and you're going to go every day.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden
So-
you're going to go every single day. Whereas I say, and then the other thing that people do, sorry, Patty, my wife did this years ago. It's been a very long time. She's a wonderful woman. And so, but she, and when, that's like, yes. But anyway, whenever she would talk about going, like, I'm going to go work out, then she would buy the shoes, she'd buy the clothing, she'd buy everything. And I would always just say, hey, with whatever you have currently, just take a walk around the block.
Right.
And then if you start to like walking around the block, because you may not like it,
Right.
you might decide that I want to do something
Right.
different. And so then you just keep trying things out. And then as you try things out, then you start buying the things, because you know, this is what I want to do, and it makes you better. One of the famous things, I mean, I'm a pretty organized guy. I like things to be organized. I like things. And people would say to me, oh, you're so organized. What do you use to be organized? And I would show them different apps or whatever that I was doing to be organized. And then they'd say, oh, I'm going to get that. And I'd be like, well, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, the app works for me because I know how to be organized in what I'm doing. If you really want to be organized, start really small with little things and start organizing those little tiny bits of your life.
Right.
And then move from there to, oh, this might work. Or
Right.
this might work. But if you think the app is going to
Yeah.
solve your disorganization,
Yeah.
it's not.
Right.
It's not. You have to start with little tiny things. So I think it's that whole concept of changing the narrative, changing what you're saying is critical to, making a difference. So,
yeah, well, for me, it does. I definitely have to. I definitely have to tell myself, if I start to talk down about something or down on myself or whatever, I have to remind myself, this is not how I would talk to a friend.
Yeah.
And I need to treat myself with a little grace. I need to, understand that I am just as valuable as my friend, if not more, because this is my life. This is my, you know what I mean? But
well, if you don't love yourself, it's impossible to love other people.
Yeah.
Parents hate hearing that because they struggle with perhaps how they feel about themselves, but they say, oh, I love my kids.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that if we don't love ourselves, if we don't have that kind of relationship with yourself, it's impossible to exude something that you don't have.
Right.
You can't do it. And so what ends up happening is yes, we might emotionally love that person, but we're not able to give them everything that they want because we're not in a good place.
for sure.
I think it's interesting. I'm sorry, I see that you're going to say something, but I stole this from, I think it was Rob Dial, a guy.
Rob Nye?
No, his name is Rob Dial. He's a mindset guy. But what he just did this thing that made it easy for me to see how what we're talking about. So if there's a situation, whatever the situation is, so the situation is I want to get up early. That's what we said, right? If our core belief is the story that we're telling ourselves, which is I can't do it, then that thought is going to lead to a feeling. That feeling is negative because I can't get the thing done. So my thought is I can't do it. So then I'm not sure that I could ever do that. I don't think I could ever do that. Well, that's going to lead to a feeling which is bad. I'm not going to feel good. Well, if I'm not feeling good, then that's going to lead to a negative action. And then that negative action is going to lead to a self-sabotaging result. And the consequence of that is
So
negative.
interesting, because I work with a student who has this very I can't do it attitude. And for the most part, he's confident with some of the stuff. But he shuts down. Mostly with math, he will shut down. But today specifically, he did, and it's very interesting, this little map, because he said, I can't. And he slammed his pencil down. And I said, you can't what? And he said, I can't do it. And I go, well, I know you can do it because you've done this before. And then he looked at me and he goes, this one's too hard. I can't do it. And I was going to say his name. I don't want to say his name. But I said, well, first of all, I know you can do it, but tell me why you don't think you can do it. Why is this one harder? And then he shutting down. Like he just got more and more upset, threw his hat down, stepped on his hat. Like he gets a little frustrated. But I just said, oh my gosh, I almost said his name again. I don't want to say his name. He could edit it, I guess, if I said it. But but I said, right now it's not a choice because we do have to do this work. So what I want you to do is I want you to try it and you do what you can do. And I will help you along the way. But you need to help yourself, And so those are my things with him. But it was just very interesting how you pointed that out, because that's exactly...
It's the progression. The progression is, here's the situation. If your core belief is disempowering, then you're going to fall through victim, bad feelings. Fear is going to drive your action, which is going to lead to self-sabotage and then ultimately a negative consequence. So on the other side of things, you can choose, and this is what we were talking about way earlier, when somebody says, it's not a good day. I didn't wake up, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever. And I'm like, you can be the author of your day. You can choose right now that this is going to be a good day. You can start to create a feeling in yourself that says this is going to be a good day. That's going to create courage for you to actually do whatever it is that might be difficult for you to do at this point. Makes you be more creative and ultimately leads to a good result, a positive result. And it is all about the narrative that you're telling yourself. Because if you're telling yourself that you're in trouble, then yeah, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting because we were talking about idioms and at school, and it was he was saying something about the student I work with was saying something about waking up on the wrong side of the bed, and then he was like, I really don't know what that means. Like they decided to sleep on the other side. And I go, well, no. And I explained how, they probably woke up in a bad mood when they say wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And he goes, I don't think you ever wake up in a bad mood. And I thought that was so sweet. Yeah, I really loved that.
That's
but I
really
said,
cool.
you know what? It's because it's my choice. I always say, like you just said, you wake up and you might have an ache and pain and you're just like, okay, is it going to be a bad day? No, I'm choosing for it to be a good day. And I'm going to, I wanted to read this though. This is a book that I think, if you are into wanting good vibes, positivity, good, self-love, it's called Good Vibes, Good Life. And then it says how self-love is the key to unlocking your greatness. And it was very interesting because I read this a while back and then I kind of thumbed through it again recently. And this is after I had made notes about this podcast that I wanted to talk about. And that's my bookmark. It says, this guy says, it's by Vex King. So he's talking about, for example, your partner may have annoying habits, but this doesn't mean that you love them any less. You accept them as they are and sometimes even learn from their flaws. You also want what's best for them. Therefore, if a particular habit was affecting their health, you would support them in making positive changes. This demonstrates your unconditional love for them. You don't judge them harshly, but you do want the best for them, the best version of themselves for their own sake. Self-love is applying this to yourself, having your own best interest at heart. So I found that very interesting as I wanted to talk about this today, because we can care for the other person and you have their best interest at heart and giving them all the motivation and all the, you don't want them to self-sabotage or anything, but you need to do that for yourself too. You absolutely need to.
Yeah, because the way you started the podcast was about the idea of, and I think this is just a great way to say it, assuming, you are a good friend, let's just assume that. If your good friend came to you and said, I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z, and not that we want to just go over it, but if they were talking negatively about themselves and they can never do it and they can never do this and that and the other, you're right in that a good rule of thumb is, okay, I'm going to say something encouraging to this person. So now I'm going to use that to say it to myself. So whatever I'm in that down in the dumps. But I think this also is interesting in that it's really important that we surround ourselves with people
absolutely
who are also pouring into us, because just like you said, what you eat, you are what you eat. Well, you are the people that are around you.
Yes.
And I always say the water rises to the same level. And so it's like, if we need to find people that are in the level that we want to be and that they push us and they help us become those people. And we surround ourselves with people like that, so that not only are we hearing it from the outside that people are speaking into our lives, but it allows us to be able to not only speak into theirs, but speak into ourselves.
It reminds me of the CrossFit gym, right?
Oh, for sure.
It just surrounds with, just all this energy of positivity and encouragement and stuff. And it's like, that's kind of what you want to surround yourself with in general in life.
No, totally, that is such a good way to say it, because when you go to like a 24-hour fitness, I haven't been to one in 100 years, but they just, I was in a gym in Chicago where I did my residency, and I would go in and we all had our headphones in and we're all doing our own thing. And I mean, there was a couple guys that I saw every morning. And so I would I would smile at, we started to like smile at each other a little bit, but it's like, we're all doing our own thing. And it's not that it's discouraging, but sometimes you're wondering, are people looking at me weird? It just feels weird because I'm doing totally different things than other people. But you go to a CrossFit gym, man, I don't care if it's your first day or if you've been there for 100 years, people are cheering you on.
Absolutely. And it's the only place where that people are still cheering on that last person that didn't finish that workout yet. You know what I mean? It's
that's right. So... And there were times when I didn't even know the person at all. And you're still just right there. And then you applaud them when they're done. You applaud them like crazy when they're done. Well, cool. This has been great. And this has been a little longer. We're going to shoot for a little longer podcast. But Valerie, this was your topic. Do you want to leave them with something specific?
Well, I do. I really honestly want to just basically ask you to talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. If somebody came with you with the negative thoughts or the negative, the I can't do this kind of thing, what would you tell a friend if they came at you with that very same thing? What would you tell them? Would you encourage them or say, you're right, you can't do it? I also would like, if you're interested in, self-love, good vibes, positivity, I really recommend this book, Good Vibes, Good Life, by Vex King. We can put it in the show notes. One day we'll have show notes.
Yeah, so check that out. So, well, we hope that you have enjoyed this. If you have enjoyed it, we want to encourage you to hit like, subscribe. Also, if you could say something, if you could comment, it's super helpful.
Love to hear from you.
If you guys have any particular subject that would be helpful for you relationally, for yourself, whatever the case may be, we would love to hear that as well. We want to thank Iggy, who we forget on a regular basis, for being our sound engineer. So we're really grateful that you do this with us and are part of the team. And did I miss anything? Are we in good shape?
No, I think we're good.
All right, Valerie, it's always fun. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
We could probably sit here and chat for 2 hours.
I know, that's
honestly.
probably true. So we'll see you guys in a week.
Bye.
Ciao.